Okay, so in case you came to this video in 2026 and you still don't know what creative strategy is, you've been probably living under a rock. But don't worry, because in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly what creative strategy is, what a creative strategist needs to do every single day, which kind of tools they use, who do they need to communicate and work with inside of the company, why your brand needs a creative strategist. In case this is your first time watching, my name is Luka David and I run a 6-figure performance creative agency. Essentially, we help brands go from 50K to 500K in revenue every single month by helping them make better ads for their brand. So if you need any help with any of these things, feel free to book a call using the link in the description. Here's the biggest misconception out there. Most people, when they hear creative strategy, they immediately think towards being creative, thinking of these new, cool, random ideas that you can implement as videos and photos for your brand. But this is wrong. Well, at least partially wrong. The word creative actually means an ad. So in marketing world, when we say creative, we're thinking of an ad. It can be a video or it can be an image. It could also be a billboard. So repeat after me. A creative is just an ad. Therefore, creative strategy is strategy around your ad creatives or around your ads. So creative strategy is essentially a plan of how you aim to achieve your business goals using advertising and the creatives that you're gonna make for those advertising campaigns. From a more practical perspective, creative strategy includes doing research, understanding your product, understanding your target audience, as well as looking at your competitors and figuring out what they are doing to actually show their products to their customers, as well as analyzing performance of your existing ads and figuring out how we can make new ads in the future. But the whole point of all of these things is to get the highest possible return on our advertising dollars. No matter if you do B2C, B2G, or B2B, you're gonna need a creative strategist if you want to use ads to actually acquire customers. So what does a creative strategy even include and how does it look? Well, there could be a lot of different things that you could put under an umbrella of creative strategy. But in general, it's setting up a framework that allows you to continuously make ads that help you achieve your business goals, which is usually sales. Here's an example so you can actually visualize how this looks like. One of the elements of creative strategy is something called a creative roadmap. Now, after you've done all of the research that you want to do about your product, about your audience, about your competitors, we want to create a media plan or a creative roadmap of all of the ads that we aim to launch in the next given period. It could be 15 days, it could be a month, it could be 6 months, and usually the bigger the company, the longer the period will be for the creative roadmap. And at our agency, we usually build creative roadmaps with a timeline of around 2 months. Now, here are some things that you want to see inside of your creative roadmap. Name of your concept, the target avatar that you want to target inside of that ad. We could also put which pain points we're addressing in the ad, the angle, the format, so is it a video or is it an image, maybe duration. We can also put in the awareness stage, so are we marketing to people who already know about our product or maybe people who don't even know they have a problem that we're trying to solve. And lastly, we're going to put in a short, brief description of this idea and why we thought it was a good idea to make this ad. The core idea of the creative roadmap is that we put strong intent into every single ad that we develop so that we can later test if those ideas we had were actually good or not through ad results. This is why I often like to say that a job of a creative strategist is to be a professional, educated guesser, because we're constantly making these assumptions on what's going to actually resonate with our target audience and we're putting our advertising dollars behind it to actually test if that's true. For example, you probably heard of product market fit, which is essentially a term we use to describe whether there's a market for a given product and if there's a fit, right? Will there be people who want to actually buy this product? So you heard of product market fit, but maybe you haven't heard of a message market fit, where we're trying to figure out if what we're relaying through our ads, through the messaging, is actually gonna connect with our audience. Is it gonna influence their decision to actually make a purchase? Essentially, we're trying to figure out if people are gonna resonate with our ads and if it's gonna actually influence them to purchase our product. So to kind of sum up, what we're trying to do is we're trying to use our knowledge of direct response marketing and creative strategy combined with ad results and data we have from before, plus the insights we got from doing all of the research about the customer, the competitor, and the product to make these educated guesses and to figure out what's gonna give us the highest return on investment. Okay, so I've been yapping a lot of theory, so let me give you a practical example so you can see how this actually manifests for a real brand. We used to work with a brand whose primary product was a hair drying tool, and our main assumption was that people want to dry out their hair as soon as possible so they can get on with their day. Therefore, our messaging was positioned in such a way where we were selling a product from a perspective where it allows you to dry your hair out very, very fast. Now, the only way we could actually test this is by making ads that address that specific need and test them on the market through Facebook ads to actually see if it's gonna work. And surprisingly, it didn't work. Our hypothesis was simply wrong. So we went back into the research process and we formed a new hypothesis. The new hypothesis was that people actually want to use this hair drying tool to blow out their hair quickly and make it look nice before a long night out. So the USP was no longer quick hair drying, it was look nice while going out. When we tried testing this angle, we got much better results than with our first angle. And this is in essence what creative strategy is. You're testing different hypotheses until one works, and then you iterate on whatever does work. And one thing to point out here is that you can go even more granular with these things. Here's another example. We worked with a supplement brand, and we were curious to see if our target audience would respond better to recommendations from doctors or to recommendations from nutritionists. And interestingly enough, more people were actually trusting nutritionists than doctors. We tested around 3 different videos for each of these variables, and those were the results that we got. And you can go as granular as you want with these message market fit testings. You could even test different captions, different B-rolls, different hooks, a lot of different things. So now that you understand what creative strategy is, let's talk about why you need a creative strategist. So if you're watching this, you might be thinking, oh, I can just go out there, make a couple of ads, and probably some of them are gonna work, some of them won't, and that's it, right? Well, technically, yes, you can do that. But the thing is, as your brand grows, you're gonna realize that your performance is constantly going down if you're not making new creatives. And brands out there that are spending $100K a month on their ads are making hundreds of ads every single week, which means that you need minds to write these ads, to analyze the results, and to actually make educated decisions on how to go forward. I mean, for most e-commerce brands, 70 to 90% of their revenue comes directly from paid advertising. So if you run an e-commerce store, this is literally the most important position in your company. Okay, now let's go through the daily workflow of a creative strategist. What do they actually do? I like to divide creative strategists' work into 4 different categories: research, data analysis, script writing, and project management. The first thing is, if you're a creative strategist, you need to be in your ads manager every single day, checking the performance of your ads. You don't need to do a huge audit every single day, that's completely pointless, but you do need to stay on top on how things are working below the hood. Metrics we want to keep an eye out for are ROAS, CPA, CPC, CPM, click-through rate, thumb-stop ratio, hold rate, and then a couple of other ones depending on what your brand does. And also, really importantly, if you're running CBO campaigns, you're gonna be looking at where the spend is actually going. So where is Meta actually choosing to put your money to achieve the best result? Now, the second thing is research. Every single creative strategist has a duty to be doing research every single week. Research is key. We essentially need to pretend like our target avatar is our best friend, and we have to know everything about them. Therefore, every creative strategist should be engaging in at least 2 hours of research every single week, if not more. Then we have the script writing. This is precisely why it's really important for a creative strategist to have an understanding of how to do copywriting. So what do we actually have to write into this ad to make sure that people actually purchase? Now, copywriting is a whole separate topic, but it's very embedded with creative strategy. And just a couple of years back, you would have been calling your creative strategist a copywriter, because in essence, that is one of the functions that they fulfill inside of your company. And then lastly, we have the project management. Now, this is very vague, but what I actually mean is they need to be doing quality assurance and making sure that the ads they script actually get developed in a way they want it. So we want to make sure that creative strategists can retain as much control over their ads as possible. If you run a bigger production company, this could literally mean going to shoots and telling people how to stand and what to say while they're on camera. But more often, this just means communicating with your video editors and your designers to make sure that the scripts you've written actually get executed the way you wanted them to be. I hope this gives you an idea of exactly what creative strategist does on a daily basis and which kind of knowledge and experience they need to have to actually execute at this job correctly. Now, lastly, we're gonna explore exactly who your creative strategists are gonna be working and communicating with inside of your company, as well as which kind of softwares and tools they use to actually complete their job the way they should. So depending on the size of the company, creative strategists are gonna be talking to the CMO, CEO, maybe the founder, and then most definitely video editors, designers, and sometimes even UGC creators who make the videos that we're scripting. And then regarding the softwares, there's quite a lot of different things that we could mention here, but what they most definitely need is a creative analytics tool and an ad swiping tool. Creative analytics tools are tools like Atria or Motion, and these tools essentially help you interpret data from Facebook Ads Manager or TikTok Ads Manager into actionable insights. This is where you look at thumb-stop ratios, you make reports on how certain concepts are performing, and it allows you to go deeper into the numbers to actually understand what's happening. And then we have the ad swiping tool. This is basically a tool like Foreplay or Atria or Magic Brief, where you can essentially save ads that you see on TikTok, Instagram, Ad Library, and etc. into a centralized place where you can then review them later. This is very important because a starting point for a lot of creative strategists is to also just see what the competition is actually doing and how to benchmark ourselves. There's quite a lot of other tools that you could use, like Canva, CapCut, Claude or ChatGPT for script writing, Google Docs for scripting, Google Sheets for tracking concepts. So there's a lot of different tools, but these are just some of the ones that I like to use. Now, obviously, we could go into much more detail on what creative strategy is, all of the activities that happen within the creative strategy, the frameworks we use, and all of these things. But I wanted to make this video easily digestible and a bit more top level so that all of you who don't really know what creative strategy is could actually understand it more easily. But in case you do want to learn more, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna be dropping so many different videos that explain a lot of different aspects of creative strategy and Facebook ads. I'm also gonna drop a video that goes through our whole creative strategy process step by step, so you can actually implement it for your company the same way we do it at Hookmasters for our clients. And lastly, if you're running an e-commerce store and you feel like you could use some help regarding any of the things that I described in this video, feel free to book a call using the link down below, and I would love to help you and see if there's anything we can do for you. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that this video has given you a better understanding of what creative strategy is and why you need a creative strategist in your brand. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.